Hai Hai Tosadevya Priyai Hai Kesavasacha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavachaya Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani. Okay, cartels.
Oh, cartels. You want the cartel?
Okay. Thank you. We got a full house today. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Paravidikacharya, also Teta, such as Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya, Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Maharishi Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Friends say Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shitwaita Gadadha Shivasani Gaur Bhaktivinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayama Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturanam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the Shri Guru Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Putale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namadi Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesha Shunyavadi Paschatra Dejatarni. So today we are reading, for those of you who have devices, from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 29, Text 28. That's 3:29. Thank you. 28. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jiva Shrestha He Ajivanam Tata Prana Vrita Shubhe Tata Sa Shita Pravaras Tatas Chandriya Ritya Jiva Shrestha Yajivanahum Tata Prana Brita Shubhe Tata Sachita Pravaras Tataschendriya Vritya Jiva Shrestha Yajivanahum Tata Prana Pratakshube Tata Sachita Pravaras Tataschendriya Vritya Jiva Shrestha Yajivanahum Tata Prana Pratashubhe Tata Sachita Pravaras Tataschendriya Vritya. Okay, someone want to try it?
Jivaha Shrestha Jivanam Tata Prana Vrita Shubhe Tata Sa Chittaha Pravaras Tataschendriya Vrittaya
Jiva Shrestha Hajivanam Tataha Prana Vrite Suve Tasajitaha Pravarasta Tasoichendriya Vritaya
Jiva Shrestha Jivanam Tata Prana Vrita Shubhe Tata Sachitta Pravaras Tataschendriya Vrittaya
Jiva Shrestha Jivanam Tatha Prana Vrita Sube Tatha Sachitta Pravaras Tataschendriya Vrittaya
जीवा शिष्ट है अजीवा नाम तथा प्राणावृते शुभे तथा सचित प्रवारास ततश्चेन्द्रिया वृत्तः
All right. Jiva. Living entities. Shrestha. Better. He. Indeed. Ajivanam. Than inanimate objects. Tata. Than them. Pranaprita. Entities with life symptoms. Shubhe. O Blessed Mother. Tata. Than them. Satchita,
Satchita,
entities with developed consciousness.
entities with developed consciousness.
Pravara,
Pravara,
better.
better.
Tata,
Tata,
than them.
than them.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and.
Indriya Vrittiha,
Indriya Vrittiha,
those with sense perception.
those with sense perception.
So translation, living entities are superior to inanimate objects. O Blessed Mother, and among them, living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them. And better still are those who have developed sense perception. So purport, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
In the previous verse, it was explained that living entities should be honored by charitable gifts and friendly behavior. And in this verse and in the following verses, the description of different grades of living entities is given so that one can know how to behave friendly and when to give charity. For example, a tiger is a living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Supreme Lord is living in the heart of the tiger as super soul. But does this mean that we have to treat the tiger in a friendly manner? Certainly not. We have to treat him differently, giving him charity in the form of prasada. The many saintly persons in the jungles do not treat the tigers in a friendly way, but they supply prasad foodstuffs to them. The tigers come, take the food, and go away, just as a dog does. According to the Vedic system, don't blame me for this one. Please don't get angry. The dog is not allowed to enter the house. Because of their uncleanliness, cats and dogs are not allowed within the apartment of a gentleman, but are so trained that they stand outside. The compassionate householder will supply prasad to the dogs and cats who eat outside and then go away. Or at least they stay around for a while. We must treat the lower living entities compassionately. But this does not mean that we have to treat them in the same way as we treat other human beings. The feeling of equality must be there, but the treatment should be discriminating. Just how discrimination should be maintained is given in the following 6 verses concerning the different grades of living entities or living conditions. The first division is made between dead stone-like matter and the living organism. A living organism is sometimes manifested even in stone. Experience shows that some hills and mountains grow. This is due to the presence of the soul within that stone. Above that, the next manifestation of the living condition is development of consciousness, and the next manifestation is the development of sense perception. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, it is stated that trees have developed sense perception. They can see and smell. We know by experience that trees can see. Sometimes in its growth, a large tree changes its course of development to avoid some hindrances. This means that a tree can see, and according to the Mahabharata, a tree can also smell. This indicates the development of sense perception. Interesting. Trees sees. Of course, not in the same way we see. It actually experiences light. And in this way, it can actually face, sometimes we see the bushes, they face the sun, and the sun changes its course, and the bush actually changes to face the sun. So there is actually some seeing, but not in the same way we see. So again, the verse. Jiva Shreshta Yajivhanam Tatha Pranabrita Shubhe Tatha Sachita Pravaras Tatha Chandriya Vrittiha. So Om Gadan Timadanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigaveda Maha. So previously, the equality of all living entities is mentioned by Lord Kapiladev. This is the discussion between Lord Kapiladev and Devahuti, his mother. And so the equality is based upon the soul. that every soul is exactly the same. There's no better souls other than the super soul, Krishna. But as far as Jiva, Jiva soul means the individual soul, such as you and I, which are, this Jiva soul is called the Tatashta Shakti of the Lord, which translates basically as marginal potency of the Lord. Marginal potency means that although we are spiritual, was that Vidya presents it, Vishnu Shakti Para Prakta Kshetra Gyakya Tata Para. We're also transcendental. We're also, in one sense, the Chit Shakti of the Lord, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Chit Shakti means the spiritual or internal potency. But we're tiny portions of that Chit Shakti. So therefore we can choose. Marginal means, just like described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jaiva Dharma, like you have the margin between the shore and the ocean. And sometimes some of the shore becomes covered up, and sometimes according to the tides, just like I was recently in Fiji, and sometimes it's low tide, sometimes it's high tide, because the moon causes the tides. So in the same way, sometimes the Jiva soul gets covered up, and sometimes the Jiva soul gets less covered up or not covered up at all, according to the Jiva soul's desires. So the question arises because at the present time we're covered up, we see the animals covered up, and what to speak of a stone, which is really covered up. How does this happen? Isn't Krishna equal to everybody? In fact, he says this in the Gita. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshosti naprihat. He says, I am equal to everyone. So why is it that some living entities are put into the body of pigs or hogs, the same thing, or dogs, or trees? Because they're equal. Each and every living entity is exactly the same. The soul in the tree is exactly the same as your soul. And so why? Why is this difference? So let's examine the soul's sojourn or voyage within this material world. The soul actually comes into the material world in one sense. In another sense, the soul is not in the material world, because the soul can't touch matter. The soul is transcendental. The soul is described as 1/10,000th the tip of the hair. For those of you who are scientists, if you take the cross-section of anything and you keep going further and further to the tip of it, you get to a mathematical point in space, right? Like if you have a pin, let's take a pin, that's easier to understand than hair. And you just take cross-sections, and you go all the way to the very, 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 very tip. You have a mathematical point in space, which is actually theoretical because it's not actually, there's no dimensions. There's no length, there's no breadth, there's no width of it. So sometimes people ask, 1/10,000th the tip of the hair, we should be able to see it with electron microscopes. No, we can't, because there's no material dimensions. That's the reason it's mentioned like 1/10,000th the tip of the hair is because it has no dimensions. You said that's a poetic way of saying, or a metaphorical way, or poetic way of saying the soul has no dimensions. So each and every soul is exactly the same, no dimensions. Each and every soul is not actually part of this material world, but each and every soul in the material world is thinking that they're part of the material world. So why, to be precise, does one soul think that he or she is a pig, and another soul thinks he's a dog, another soul thinks he's in charge of the forestry department? Why? It's all illusion. Actually, Prabhupada said, we never left the spiritual world. We just think we're here. It's like, again, like the simulation hypothesis, that somehow or other we think we're here, and we're connected, just like in a computer. in a computer game or something like that, especially if you have VR goggles, like I do, then you know, it's just like you're there. I mean, for example, sometimes I go on an exercise bicycle and I have these VR goggles, and there's actually a video of going around Govardhan.
Wow.
Yeah, that was done by one of my sincere disciples, who doesn't happen to be here right now. He got on a motorcycle and put the GoPro on his head and drove around Govardhan. It's really nice. So anyway, so we go on the bicycle sometimes, you know, stationary bicycle. We don't do it while we're on the road. That would be quite dangerous. We put the VR goggles, and we're thinking we're going around Govardhan. It's really nice. It's an illusion. I'm an illusion. Of course, it's a nice illusion to be in. Just like sometimes you watch these Bollywood movies and you get an illusion. Oh, so-and-so is in love with someone, so-and-so. Oh, and this, he passed away. Oh my God. So it's all, so our connection here is like that. It's really illusory. We actually have no connection with this body. It's just based upon the mind. Isn't it? Like if you get detached, if your mind is controlled and detached, then you don't experience the pains and pleasures of the body anymore. But because we're attachment, that's why we get pains, that's why we get pleasures. Actually, the Buddhists recognize that. Like Lord Buddha has his Four Noble Truths. That material world is suffering, suffering is due to attachment. Give up the attachment, the suffering goes away. And of course, then he talked about the Eightfold Path, which is, we're not Buddhists, so I'm not going to discuss that. So it's all attachment. So getting back to the point, so why are some souls, completely convinced that they're pigs? And you can actually see that if someone is an expert hypnotist, sometimes on the stages they can take some volunteer and say, all right, now you are a dog. And the person gets down on their fours, their hands and their legs, whatever. And the person starts barking and rolling around. So it's the mind. That's proof. It's the mind. Isn't it? I mean, you can get people to do so many things under the influence of hypnotism. It's, there's also something called the power of suggestion. Power of suggestion, which shows how powerful the mind is. Like sometimes people, especially from a country that none of you have heard of, Fiji, they're very superstitious, India too. Very superstitious about things like, especially like evil eye. I remember I was talking to someone once, and I just was rubbing one eye and looking at him with one eye, and he started to get scared. He said, "You're giving me the evil eye." And of course, because I'm not superstitious at all, so I just covered that eye. And another time, well, this is an interesting thing. I wanted to show people how powerful the mind is. Because, actually yoga means to control the mind and the senses. Of course, manasakstani, indriyani, prakriti, stani, karshati. The mind is actually the central controlling point. So I wanted to show people how powerful the mind was. So I told these devotees, I said, actually, when I was young, I learned voodoo, which is not true. And then I made got a little doll or something like that, and I said, I did some mantras. I said, this is you. This is you. And I said, and I took some pins and I started to stick pins in it. And they started to experience pain all over their bodies. They said, no, Guru Maharaj, stop it. I said, well, this is what I do to disciples who don't listen. So you got to be really careful when you take initiation. You can end up like being tortured. You don't listen, you know. So anyway, but it was just the mind. I don't know any voodoo. I mean, what am I? I was not brought up in a South American family. There is voodoo, but it's just like it's in the mind. And even if it was real, by chanting the holy name, all this becomes negated or purified or gotten rid of. You know, we have to have faith in Krishna's name. So I know in Fiji, the question was raised yesterday about me getting angry. Well, I get angry when people actually minimize the potency of the holy name. You know, and talk about how the holy name, they need to go to some witch doctor to get rid of some curse or something like that instead of chanting Hare Krishna, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the Acharyas say the holy name is so powerful, it's more powerful than all the holy places. So I think that's more powerful than some Muslim witch doctor. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Shoo. People, there's like no brains. So anyway, so that's what gets me angry, when people minimize the holy name, criticize Vaishnavas. Otherwise, you know, don't get angry. So anyway, so the question arises, so why are some people like hypnotized into thinking they're dogs? Because it's not that you can go to the dog and say, you're not a dog, you're not a dog. It's not exactly hypnotism, you know, just a metaphorical construct. You know, you have a dog here. You're not a dog, you're not a dog. You're a human being, and the dog stands up and goes to the university.
There's a movie on that.
Yeah, I know, but it's not reality. So, but it's basically, we are convinced through the mind, the subtle body. You know, the gross body is Pancha Mahabhuta, the subtle body is mind, intelligence, and ego. So we're convinced that we are this person, we have this body, and we identify fully with the body. I mean, the proof that it's not really the body, it's the mind, is the case of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, because he was attached to a deer, he took the body of a deer in his next life. But he had the consciousness of a human being. It's just like, you know, just like sometimes you get some clothes that just don't fit you. You know, sometimes people give me things, you know, disciples give me clothes that doesn't fit, but I have to wear it just to please them. So I hope they go away, you know. So sometimes people get a body that just doesn't fit. I mean, you see this sometimes with this gender changing thing. You know, so that's why we don't criticize people, because they get a body and they feel, oh my God, what am I doing in this female body? I'm a wrestler. You know, I was a championship wrestler in my last life. So Bharat Maharaj was like that. He was in the deer body. He says, oh my God, what am I doing? Sounded like the dog bark. I thought it was. So he was in this deer body, and he was thinking, oh my God, what did I do to get in this body? But he had the consciousness of a human being in the deer body. Thank you. None more for giving us sound effects. So,
Same with Daksha with goat head.
yeah, Daksha the goat head. Yeah, that's another example. Daksha the goat head, you know, he's doing a sacrifice. Here's your Brahmin, you know, with a goat head and a human body. It's just like, what? You know, what's happening here? Or even like you have these Nagas. You know, these Nagas who can sometimes take a human form,
Yeah, they
and sometimes take the form of a snake,
Yeah.
like that, or even Rakshasas, they take different forms. So the mind is actually the important thing. So anyway, so So why are some people, I'm still asking the question, why are some people hypnotized to thinking that there are these different animals, different types of animals, different human beings? It's because of the karma, the modes of nature and the karma that gets them like that. Because originally, when the soul comes down, well, even doesn't really come down, but that's just a metaphorical statement. When the soul begins to think he's part of the material world, the soul actually takes a body in the mode of goodness. And it's described in some of the literatures that the soul first comes down as Lord Brahma. Because when the soul first comes into this virtual reality material world, the soul is not influenced by the modes of passion or ignorance. Hasn't happened, because passion and ignorance start to affect the soul after the soul has performed vikarmic activities. When you first come to the material world, I'm saying come, but so you understand what I'm talking about, you haven't performed any activities, you have no karma, zero karma. And the only way to accrue karma is in a human body. You can't, like these animals that are being described here, cannot do or accrue karma. They're working out karma. Accruing means to get karma. They cannot obtain karma. They're working out previous karma, because previously every single animal and entity you see here was a human being. And that's a heavy thought. If you think about, the dog here, can we bark again? The dog here was previously a human being. Think about it, that's pretty heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think other devotees here have dogs too in your home.
Not inside.
When you look at your cute little French poodle,
Jack Russell.
that's the name?
No, that's the type of
Oh, yeah.
breed, Jack Russell.
Yeah, Jack Russell.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You go to Mumbai, and on the Juhu beach, everybody's walking their designer dogs. They're taken to the hairdresser and they're curled up and everything like that. So, but when I see them, I think that, wow, they were all human beings. And they did something to be hypnotized to think that they're a dog. And that's their punishment, a diminished consciousness like that. So here in this verse we hear about all these different grades of consciousness. And of course Lord Kapiladev is saying, even though we see everyone equally, we should understand that there are different bodies and interact. I mean, that's just practical. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmani gavihasari shuni chaiva supakicha pandita samadarshana. The one sees equally, but at the same time, you also have another aspect of your consciousness where you're not seeing equally because you're not interacting equally. However, you feel equally compassionate to all living entities. So it's really, you have to divide up your consciousness. You're not coming in the house, you're moochie. At the same time, I love you.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So the love should not come to the point where you give the dog a big kiss. When I was young, I never gave the dog a kiss. But my brother, he had some emotional needs. So he would sometimes, we had a turtle, and he would kiss the turtle. But another point is, when you interact with these animals, it's not an exchange of ras. You think it is. It's not a real relationship. I mean, it's not bad to have an animal. I'm not criticizing people, because it fulfills emotional needs. People live 5 years longer when they have pets. All right, there's a balance. So, but Prabhupada said how to have the dog here. So, we're thinking the dog loves me. And the dog is not thinking, I love him. The dog is thinking, he provides me with the food, takes me for a walk. If I wag my tail a little bit, it controls him. You know, so it's like a conditioned response.
Yeah.
You know, you can, you know, just like conditioned, like Pavlovian dogs, you know. So, but with human beings, that's why Prabhupada said you can only exchange ras with people in the same species, with entities in the same species. So it's very important to understand that. Yes, we love the dog, but the dog is not thinking the same thing about me that I'm thinking about him or her. So it's not the same thing as a relationship with a human being. Nor is it the same thing as a relationship with Krishna. Because with Krishna, we are the same species. We're spirit. We're part and parcel of Krishna. Mamivansa jiva loke jiva buddha sanatana manashakshnani indriyani prakriti shnani karshati. So that's anyway, so we have to really understand these things. How the dog got to be a dog. How we got to be a human being. Because also our developed consciousness gives us a greater responsibility. Not only insofar as interacting with the animals, but insofar as our own lives and our spiritual lives. So these are some points. So any questions or comments? Yeah.
No, you go first.
Or you choose.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. You know, you've been giving really nice classes last 2-3 days. So I was actually thinking, it's a nice instructions given by Kapila Dev to devotee in terms of the developed consciousness of different
The
connections
animals.
of devotees.
Animals
as well
and
previously.
plants. And,
And in these verses like plants and animals. So we looked into like for devotees, you know, different how we have to pay respect to the senior devotees,
Yeah.
and then like say envious, we know we pay respect in our mind, and then the 6 loving exchanges
Right,
we
right,
talked
right.
about 2 days ago. And then we came now to the plants and animals, you know, actually the Purpati Prabhupada talks about discrimination as well,
Yeah.
in terms of different conscious levels. So
Exactly.
we've got the animate, like the plants, and because they also have sense perception, then to muchi animals like in cats and dogs, you know, Manusmrita talks about that.
I think most
And then-
animals are muchi.
yeah.
Can't think of too many suchi animals,
Yeah.
except for cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, cows you can have in your house.
Yeah.
How do you-
That's why we're thinking very seriously about getting these mini cows,
Oh yeah, miniature. Yeah.
Many-
the Punganur cows.
Yeah.
They have in South India. They're actually about this
They start
size.
selling in Australia as well, Maharaj.
They sell them in Australia?
Yeah, like, yeah. The little cow is like, even you can milk and then, yeah, they're very tiny. It's like a pig.
We'll bring one home with it.
Anymore.
Okay. So, where's Naveen?
It's right there.
When I come here next time, we should have a mini cow in the house. No, I was just joking. Don't do it. He'll do it, but the council won't approve it. So what's the point?
So yeah, and also we talked about Pandita Samadarshana thing. But
Yeah.
then again, you know, a different
Yeah.
based on the developed consciousness of the person, we need to, or soul, we need to have discrimination. Like, you know, tigers, we cannot go pat
Right,
them,
right.
and then the muchi animals to the plants and trees. So the converse now, I was actually thinking, you know, yeah, and then compassion, we saw like Shivananda, Sena,
Right, taking
showed
care of
to
the dog.
and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed to the dog again. And then the opposite would be like you've actually mentioned, Bharat Maharaj, you know, getting attachment, the consequences of the developed consciousness with Shana coin. So, and so now the converse, I was actually thinking, so King Pratapna Rudra, right? He externally he was very opulent king, but then he was a very good developed consciousness,
Right.
a devotee. So what would be the reason that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused his association to beginning?
Okay, I mean you really jump from
Yeah.
one topic to
I
another.
wanted to say something,
I'm trying to
but
see
I'm
the
cut
co-
short.
I'm trying to see the connection between a moochie dog and.
I had
All right.
questions
Anyway, you
at
don't
the
have to
end of the
explain the
day.
connection. It's just like
I had
seems
a
like-
question something else.
seems
and then
like-
a different question.
yeah, it seems like a non sequitur, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's all right. So the question is, okay, let's go to Maharaj Pratapuruja. From the dog to Maharaj Pratapuruja.
About
So,
development consciousness.
so Maharaj, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So a king, so the king doesn't necessarily have to have undeveloped consciousness. The king doesn't necessarily, I mean, there's many Rajarshis, saintly kings. I mean, you have like Prithu Maharaj. What to speak of Lord Ramchandra? You know, Lord Ramchandra certainly didn't have undeveloped consciousness. He's God.
Yeah.
So, but the reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't want to take the association or didn't want to be seen with King Pratapuruja had nothing to do with King Pratapuruja's consciousness. It had to do with his position. Because traditionally, sannyasis were prohibited from interacting with people who were, you know, money and power. And,
Female.
yeah, I mean, there were all sorts of, yeah, and ladies too.
Yeah.
You know, so it was traditional because, for several reasons, to maintain their reputation. And reputation, it had nothing to do with their own spirituality, but it's their reputation. Like if everyone saw me hanging out with Elon Musk, you know, just going over his house instead of coming here in the morning, then I think, you know, people would start talking. Of course, they'd probably be happy, make friends with me after that. You know, could I borrow some money? But you know, it hurts someone's reputation. A sannyasi, he's like a white sheet. That a spot on the white sheet actually causes people just to notice the spot and criticize. So, you know, like if you were to see me coming out of the movie theater, you know, the latest Bollywood movie or whatever. Actually, one time, one of my godbrothers made me go to the movies. It was the last time. It was The Lord of the Rings. He wanted to. Yeah, he was a sannyasi also. So he said, I want you to see this movie. And I said, I don't go to theaters. And so Prabhupada, not Prabhupada, but he said, no, you have to come. I said, and you're going to pay. I'm not going to waste Krishna's money on something stupid. So he takes me to the movie theater, and I'm thinking, what if some devotees see two sannyasis eating popcorn together? What are they going to think? Fortunately, no one saw us. But I'm so honest, if I do something like that, I always mention it. But, you know, if you see Guru Maharaj going to a theater like that, you just think, well, first of all, you may have some doubts in him. Secondly, especially if he's preaching against going to the movies. And secondly, wow, then the floodgates open for your own sense gratification,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Then you're just thinking, wow, Guru Maharaj does, I saw Guru Maharaj eating chocolate, you know. I remember when I used to take chocolate,
Yeah.
and I don't now because of health reasons, not spiritual reasons. Then all the disciples started eating chocolate after that. Guru Maharaj is eating chocolate. He's eating chocolate. You know, more than, you know, Guru Maharaj reads the Bhagavatam.
It's a early in the morning.
It's early in the morning, you know, has strict sadhana. He's eating chocolate. He's eating chocolate. Is chocolate's all right? Yeah, it's all right. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also trying to set an example for others and concerned with his own reputation. But basically, he's not thinking that necessarily a king has less developed consciousness. Because usually it's prohibited for a sannyasi. I mean, nowadays, of course, you know, for Krishna's service, we go see kings, we do all sorts of things. Have I seen the king? Yeah, actually, I saw the king of Nepal one time years ago. And Prime Minister of Nepal years ago. When I was a new sannyasi, I visited him. And so, you know, the devotees like go see the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. We have no problems with that. Because for Krishna, it's yukta vairagya. But Lord Chaitanya was setting such a strict standard that even when one of his disciples, you know, Junior Haridas, happened to, like, even, I guess, probably look inappropriately at a lady or something like that, Lord Chaitanya rejected it. Wow. So, okay, other questions?
Yes, Gurudev, my question is on the, you know, the identity, the identification with the body,
Yeah.
and the gender fluidity, if you like, that is currently. You
Because
know.
the mind has a certain shape. That's the
Yeah.
subtle body. Yeah.
So nowadays they propagate or teach a lot of, you know, this whole gender fluid, you know.
Yeah. All right.
You know, that it's okay and all this sort of stuff.
Well, I
So
don't think it's okay. But
Well, yeah, no, but I'm just trying to understand, is this like you said, you know, if you've got a previous life or birth consciousness and maybe you feel trapped in a male
Yeah.
body or female or whatever, how does that work? I mean, is that a previous impression of your mind?
yeah,
You
yes, the
bring that
impression,
to it?
the impression in your mind, and it's your karma to get trapped in a body that's not appropriate. You know, some like people are trapped sometimes in bodies where they can't hear or can't see.
Yeah.
You know, there's all sorts of bodies that people get trapped in. Like, you know, I'm trapped in an old person's body right now. You know, we can exchange, you know, just like the story of Yayati. You know the story of Yayati?
Yeah, yes.
Yayati, he committed a mistake, you know. He had a relationship with Sarmishta,
Yeah.
his wife's friend, and then he got cursed to become old.
Yeah.
And so then he was lamenting, his wife was lamenting, so he had to go to his sons to get one of
He's the
their
guru.
had to go. No, he doesn't want to exchange. It's not that story. It's not that story. So he had to go
Yeah.
to Puru, his son, and his son finally exchanged
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah. So, however, with this, I mean, I think just to clarify this, with this gender fluidity, it's gone too far.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people are actually told, or little children are told, you know, you can choose your gender.
Even in school.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And to give children that choice is actually ridiculous, and it's abusive, from my humble opinion. So, my personal opinion about all this is if one's uncomfortable in their body, then just have to tolerate. You know, obviously if there's some disability that you can cure, but you know, I mean, God forbid I find myself in a female body. But anyway, so I don't think I would undergo. I would just like do my best in the body. I mean, if there was some disability, you know, something could cure my eyesight or something like that. I mean, like years ago I had cataract surgery. That's fine. But, you know, Krishna's given you a certain gender for a particular purpose. And if you look at it in a Krishna conscious way, that I'm supposed to really deal with this and understand I'm not the body.
So it's a karmic reaction as well, isn't it?
Well, it's karmic reaction, or Krishna put you in that situation. I mean, let's say you were a good devotee, some Brahmin, you know, is always doing puja, but you really, get to work. So you really just like were attached to some girl.
Yeah.
You know, like Bharat Maharaj, he was a really good devotee. It wasn't a karmic reaction, it was directly Krishna.
Yeah.
So let's say you're attached to some girl, or you were some girl, and you're just meditating on, you know, some young man. You know, let's say you're an older lady, and you're meditating on a young man. And so as a result, you took a male body, and you still have a lady's subtle body. And so you have to realize, maybe that's what I did in my last life. You know, maybe, you know, I'm uncomfortable in this body. You know, I have a male body, but I feel like a lady. Why is that? Because I was thinking of a male. I was lusty in my last life. So that, you know, that's one reason that may happen. I mean, sometimes it's described that people are married and they do the switcheroo from one lifetime to another. You know, switcheroo? No, switcheroo means the man becomes the wife in the next life, and the wife becomes the husband.
Okay. Same couple.
Same couple, yeah.
Same.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
So you can do that with your husband.
That explains a lot, man.
Or sometimes Prabhupada said that sometimes two enemies become married in the next life.
Oh my God.
Once I usually
Because you're
shouldn't have
thinking-
enemies.
You're thinking a lot of that person. Yeah, you're just thinking, oh, I hate him. I really hate it. Hate. Okay, here's your new husband. Yeah. Not in every case. Don't worry about it.
Think about something good.
Yeah. But you know, sometimes you know there's these tricks of karma or tricks of desire.
Yeah.
Desire.
You have to be really careful what you desire, what you're meditating on at the time of death. You know, like Bharat Maharaj. Okay, we had another question. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev, for the class.
Yeah.
Just a question on the, I think Bhagavad Gita verse which you are quoting, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loka
Jiva
Jiva
Putra Sanatana,
like
yeah.
eternally part and parcel of the Lord
Oh
Krishna.
yeah.
So just on contemplating that, is that soul, is it a personal or impersonal? The reason being Lord Krishna, even though he's personal, at the same time he's a Brahman, he's formless as well.
That's an
So
aspect.
Krishna, like since we are part and part, can soul be initially without form and then takes
No.
form with the body, or whether it will be?
No, the soul always has a form, although the form is covered or forgotten. Yeah, Mami Vangsa Jiva. We're part. That's an interesting verse. We're part and parcel of Krishna. So we're also considered Shakti of Krishna too, which is really interesting. We're the Jiva Shakti, the Tatastha Shakti. So at the same time, we're part and parcel. So I take this part and parcel. We're the same nature as Krishna, the spiritual nature. We have a personality. We're individual. However, we're also the energy of Krishna.
So both.
You know, like in one sense, everything's part and parcel of Krishna. Yaham sarvasya prabhu matak sarvartate. You know, it emanates from Krishna. Om Purnam Purnami Dat. That, you know, everything that comes out from Krishna is so many complete wholes come from Krishna, and Krishna remains the complete whole. So, in one sense, everything is part and parcel of Krishna. Like sometimes you can say this table is Krishna because it's Krishna's energy, and it comes from Krishna. It's an emanation from Krishna. So in that sense, the Jiva soul is part and parcel of Krishna, but the Jiva soul is of a different category than Krishna too. And Krishna's Shakti are a different category. Like Srimati Radharani is a different tattva. One has to understand the tattva. So, from one perspective, part and parcel, but not exactly the same nature as Krishna. Not exactly, but pretty much the same nature. But not exactly. Because we're small and Krishna's big. And we have a tendency to fall into illusion. Krishna doesn't have that tendency. And we are Krishna's energy rather than Krishna. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah. All right, two more questions, yeah.
Gurudev. I have two questions. One is that you mostly say that Krishna said throughout the life, if you follow in Krishna consciousness, at
Yeah.
the end moment, if not you able to remember me, I will remember.
That's
you.
right.
I will take care.
Prabhupada said that, yeah.
But other side, we also learn this thing that if someone is not able to remember the Krishna at the time of death, he will get birth in a devotee family or in a good family.
Or a demigod family.
So how they both things are related? Like if I have followed Krishna consciousness up to my best level, and at the end moment I am not able to remember the Krishna.
Well, Krishna, remember, if you've done it up to your best level, as you say, you know, whatever you can do, Krishna will actually remember you.
So if he remembers.
But if you're not completely Krishna conscious, if you still have some mixed desires, then there's two things that can happen. You take birth in the heavenly planets, and then after that you take birth in a rich family, or if you're very advanced, then you take birth in a devotee family.
Okay. And if someone is born in devotee family,
Yeah.
that means he's not an ordinary soul. So
Oh, it depends. There are sometimes demons being born devotee. Don't worry.
One example.
oh, is it like that?
Yeah, Krishna had a son who became a demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bhaumasura, Krishna had to kill his own son.
Oh,
So it's not, but generally, the general principle is someone born in a devotee family is a special soul.
Yeah.
special soul, but it can happen.
It can, anything can happen. I mean, demons have devotees. Look at Vibhishan. He was born in a demon family, and he was the greatest devotee.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah, Prahlad Maharaj, because he had the association of Narada Muni. Yeah. So, but generally, yes. Generally, when the devotees have children, they should think that Krishna has sent someone who is just finishing up their devotional service. We have to end in a second. Just one more question. And Nandamori, you had a question?
It's a different topic, but anyway, regarding superstitious, but in Vedas there is a section astrology. So sometimes we say Sanigraha.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
does that have an influence? Even though, I mean, like as you said, we should have more faith in the Harinaya.
Well, I always use the example of Hanuman, who said that, you know that story. You know the story? And Hanuman, Sani came to Hanuman. Hanuman said, all right, you can affect me, sit on my head. And then Hanuman put some big stones on his head. Shani said, get me out of here. And Hanuman said, okay, get out of here. So, you know, I don't know if it's an actual story, but it's metaphorically, it means that we take shelter of Krishna, then these inauspicious things become auspicious. My experience with, you know, my Saturn period was one of the best times of my life. So for a devotee, you know, the Saturn period could mean more renunciation, more dedication, more devotion, less attachment to this material world. So Krishna can transform those things. We should be, at the same time, you can be aware of these things. Just like if it's raining, you should go out with an umbrella, right? But you shouldn't give up your activities just because it's raining outside. Shouldn't be a prima donna. It's raining, it's raining. Can't go to work here, you call into work, can't go to work, it's raining. afraid of getting my feet wet. So you use an umbrella, and our umbrella is the holy name. And so, yeah, I mean, certain things, but Krishna turns the inauspicious to auspicious. That's been my experience. Yeah, so Krishna can change. I mean, just like that, my astrology, so many astrologers said I was supposed to die when I was like 55. And I was just waiting for it to happen. Went to Govardhan, said, okay, Govardhan, steady, 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Huh? I'm still here. What happened? It was a dud. You know, so didn't work. So many astrologers have said that. So whatever. So I'm still here today. Okay, so we should end now. All glory is to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
Jai.